Now, I want to mention back in May, there was a very horrible incident that occurred here in Bardstown with the killing of Officer Jason Ellis. And can you give us a little update? I know it's been several months, obviously, since then. How's the progress coming on the search there?
Well, unfortunately, they really haven't had any solid leads in this case, which is a little frustrating for myself and our police department and really the community in general. It was a heinous crime, and it's just been tough. We're getting through it, but the department as well as the citizen community, they would like some kind of closure on this deal, but all the work between the state police and the FBI and the alcohol, tobacco, and firearm people really have not come up with any concrete leads at this time, and it's tough, but they're still on it.
So
they're tracking every lead they can and following up on every tip they have, but as of yet, unfortunately, we have no concrete evidence on that right now.
Now, Officer Ellis was the canine officer for the city of Bardstown, and recently you had a new dog that has come. You actually have two dogs now, Zeus and Ace, right? Who are part of the Bardstown Police Department because the dog that was with Officer Ellis is with with Officer Ellis's family. Is that correct?
Right. The dog that was Officer Ellis's dog, he was probably 7 or 8 years old, and after they get about that age, their sniffers they kind of get worn out a bit. But everybody can't train those dogs, or they're not like family pets unless they have to get acclimated to a family, whatever. So when Officer Ellis went down, I felt it was a good time to just retire the dog also. So we gave it to the family where he had been, with the kids and Officer Ellis's wife. So it worked out okay. So we have 2 more new canine officers that wanted to get involved with that, and so we put another dog in the budget, and we also had another dog that we purchased from asset forfeiture money that we had from items we've confiscated and sold from crimes that people committed, drug offenses, or cars, or guns, or whatever the situation. The courts really let us get cash that his court has given back to the police department.
So we were talking, you have these 2 dogs now. What is the cost that's involved with the bringing on the canine as well as the training for the city?
Well, they run in the neighborhood of anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000, depending upon to what extent you go through the training and what kind of dogs you have. These are probably in the neighborhood of close to $10,000, I think, along with the training, because the officers have to be trained as well as their dog to get them acclimated to each other. So they go through a full training process also.
Right. And I know there was talk of how useful the canine unit was with drug issues, particularly here in Bardstown and Nelson County. So it's been sorely missing for those past several months.
Well, they can track a person down.
Yeah.
You're not going to outrun too many. So criminals beware.
That's right. Watch out for Zeus and Ace. So we also want to mention, a few weeks ago, we actually had an interview scheduled, and an incident came up that night, so we had to reschedule for tonight. And it was involving an issue with renters in Bardstown, as well as planning and zoning and a handicapped ramp and all this different stuff. Can you tell us what happened with that issue?
Well, mainly it got blown out of proportion. Some people overreacted. Some of the big city news station came in to write a story about a little handicapped girl that supposedly the big city government was trying to tear down her handicap ramp, which was not necessarily true. It was just a miscommunication, I might say. But it was never any issue about the fact that the city or planning is the only one to do anything to
put them on the street.
Yeah, no, it was nothing of that nature. It was mainly of the owner of the property not doing what he was supposed to do. But the facts got misconstrued, and there was more opinions than actually facts. But it's been all straightened out.
Well, let's, if we can, just touch upon the details on it, so that we have the true information on what happened, because I know some people have heard different varying stories on the issue. So it came about that somebody was looking for a permit. Is that correct?
Well, what it was, these renters of this particular property had a handicapped child that a local Shriners group had. They go in and do good deeds, and the poor child needed a handicap ramp, so they went and the landlord supplied the materials for the ramp, and the Shriners built the ramp. Mm-hmm. But it's we have regulation in the city that anytime you add on to a structure, whether it be another room or ramp or something of that nature, then it has to be inspected.
Right. And
it has to have a permit. It's a permitting process. The landlord didn't do that, and this went on for like 90 days. So planning and zoning, they sent him a letter basically saying, you need to come in and get this to be signed a permit to make sure this structure is put up properly. Mm-hmm. And if it's not, then you might need to get a variance to make it right. That's why we have the Board of Adjustments to make variances when people don't necessarily do the right thing. So, but the parents of the child overreacted and got the media involved in it, not necessarily saying they were afraid that the ramp was going to be torn down for the handicapped kid, but that was never an issue involved in it at all. It was a matter of just going through the proper channels that needed to be done. Once the landlord did that and made the necessary permitting process and applied for the variances, it was done. Mm-hmm. It was never an issue about tearing the poor little handicapped girl's ramp down or anything of that nature. But
so it's more of a process of
just a process
of how things are supposed to be done.
Yeah, right. Well, if you fix it, you just can't let any Tom, Dick, and Harry go out and start building up structures.
Right.
So what if someone that wasn't qualified to build a structure and the poor little girl had the handicap ramp and it fell down and hurt her? Who would be responsible?
Right.
The first thing the people would say was, don't y'all have a building inspector in the city that inspects things like that? Well, that's the reason. Yeah. That's where you have a permitting process to protect people from themselves. So.
Well, recently on Central Kentucky Television, we were out at some land that the city owns where a new training facility was built by the Bardstown Nelson County Fire Department. It's called the Nest, I believe is what they're calling it for their training facility out there. And that was some land out on the end of, is it Sutherland Drive?
Sutherland Lane.
Sutherland Lane that the city owned. I know you were out there for that dedication.
Well, we've been talking about wanting to have a quality training facility for our local fire departments, and also something that can be used for a regional type fire center. It's gonna take some time to get it fully developed the way they want to, but it's for confined space rescue, as well as 2 or 3 story evacuation and things of this nature. So we've got long range plans to really make it a nice facility. This is just the beginning, but it's gonna take a little while to get it all in the process, but it's a good start.
And the city actually still owns the land, and
the city owns that land. It goes all the way back to the river. That's where we have our sewage treatment plant on back to our father. But Public Works came in and helped us with that. Several local businesses helped us erect the structure and the towers, and Salt River helped to move some of the utility lines. And it's been a community process that people have joined us with that, and hopefully one day it'll be a very nice regional center that the whole region can be proud of.
That's great. It was a very nice facility, and we do have the dedication of that on our website if you want to go watch that too, as well as here on TV. Now, recently as well, there was the gentleman who's with the Kentucky State Economic Development was here speaking to business leaders in Bardstown and Nelson County with Kim Houston, with the Economic Development Director here, brought him in. How is the economic situation here in Bardstown? We did have a downfall, and we had some rising in unemployment numbers in the past several years. Are they getting better? How's it looking for some new?
Well, the economic situation several years ago, last 4 or 5 years ago, it was kind of bleak around the countryside. It wasn't quite as devastating here in Nelson County as it was in other parts of the country or other parts of the state. Nelson County has been pretty much blessed with a diverse economy. You know, we have farming, we have manufacturing, we have service industries, we have tourism, and we have distilleries. So some of the numbers that reflected as the unemployment rate rose in Bardstown, it wasn't necessarily for the companies that were here. It was because several of the people that worked outside the city of Bardstown their companies were affected. We've had a steady stream of growth here recently in Nelson County. We've had several companies, statewide and national companies, looking at our areas for relocation, and a lot of the local companies that are doing business here have reinvested major amounts of money into our economy here locally. Polyair has increased their workforce. American Fuji Seal has made a major investment into their manufacturing facility. Barton 1792 has moved their national distribution warehouses here in the old Bird building here in Withrow Court, and Heaven Hills expanded their bourbon industry with building 2 new 100,000 barrel warehouses and pumped up their distilling process. So the economy in Bardstown is really better than it is in most. But I'm not saying it's the best, but it's a lot better than most.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll keep that way, right?
I hope so.
That's right. What are you hearing with the Kentucky League of Cities? Is it turning around in the state with lots of different cities? Or?
Well, there's a lot of activity going on around the state as far as economic development, and a lot of places, Kentucky is kind of centrally located with waterways and highways that go through the central part of the country. So, and Bardstown is kind of ideally located also because we're in the central part of the state, close to 2 major highways, close to 2 major metropolitan centers, and so we have a lot of people that are looking this way.
Yeah, with who we are. Also, you mentioned tourism and hospitality. We're kind of wrapping up right now festival season that's been really great for Bardstown. The weather has cooperated pretty well.
I'll take credit for that too.
Okay.
I get blamed for things that don't necessarily go right, so I'll take credit for all the things that do go right though.
So what was your favorite festival over this past season?
Well, they've all been good. We've started with the Colonial Days Festival in April, and we've had the Barbecue Festival in June. We've had the Buttermilk Days Festival in August. We've had the Bourbon Festival in September, and we just finished up with the Arts and Craft Festival in October. All the weekends have been beautiful. We've had record crowds in every event that we've had, and the town has been hopping, and it's been a good economic boost for the whole community. Bardstown is really on the map right now. As I travel the state with the KLC, and when people find out you're from Bardstown, they come up to me and say they either just been to Bardstown, or they're on the way to Bardstown, or their family just moved to Bardstown, or they're going to visit someone in Bardstown. It makes you feel good to know so many people do come through our city.
Fantastic. Well, again, I've been talking with Mayor Bill Sheckles, who's the mayor of the city of Bardstown, for an update on what's happening within the city. Thank you very much for coming and visiting with us.
Well, thanks for inviting me and let me give an update around Central Kentucky.
Absolutely. This has been Gary White for Central Kentucky Television.